Hello, I'm Andy Chanks, one of the instructors in the GIS courses in CFANS for fall of 2021. Now we have 4 classes, a graduate and undergraduate section of the introductory class and a graduate and undergraduate of the advanced course. And this set of video and some PDFs that go with it is all for using Citrix and accessing the ArcGIS Pro through the CFANS desktop. Now, on each of the classes, of the 4 classes, they all have a web page, and they all have information on the web page about how to start up in the undergraduate and the graduate of the intro course. They're on the lab page, and I've got PDFs, and there's a quick start video that explains all of it. Now, what I'm going to step through is just this initial PDF. There's 3 PDFs I'm talking about, and this, you can look at each PDF individually, but I'm talking about the basic course mechanics for the class. Now, the class this is the main GIS, this is our main CFANS GIS, and under it we've got the individual classes, and each class has a syllabus under each of the web page. But the important thing for this video is that we're all using the U of M cloud desktop, the CFANS cloud desktop. And the U of M CFANS have set up this virtual computer, this very fast virtual computer that'll be available for students to do their ArcGIS Pro work. Now this works with Mac and Windows computers. So pretty much any computer you have. It even works with some Chrome if you want to talk to me separately. We'll work with a Chrome computer. But most students have a Windows or a Mac computer, and they'll access the cloud. Now, if you're going to install it on your home computer, which is a special situation, it's very rare. If you've got a powerful Windows computer, you're a grad student in a lab or something, see me, send me an email. I'm happy to help you set it up individually. But I expect 99% of the people to use the CFANS cloud, the cloud desktop. Now, in order to do that, you've got to, on your computer, your Mac or your Windows, you've got to install the Citrix Workspace. It's a small little program that you put on once on the computer, and it sits there all the time, and it lets you use your browser to access this virtual computer. And here's the how-to link. It's in the PDF, and you could step through it. And once and I'll go through it real quickly here in a second. Once you've got that little CFANS client installed, that Citrix client installed, it's called Citrix Workspace, that's what it's called, installed, you'll just use your browser, and you could use Safari, you could use Chrome, you could use Firefox, you use Opera, Edge, whatever you want. You'd go to apps.umn.edu, and you'd get a little sign-on screen like this. You would select the desktops, and then from that desktop, you would see that there's a CFANS cloud desktop, and that's what we want. You would select the little drop-down. You would download the little program that fires up to begin that CFANS desktop, that cloud, okay? And I'll show you that Now, in the live session, I'm going to do just that. I've got the Citrix installed on my computer, and I'm going to go to apps.umn.edu, okay, which I selected there. I went to apps to log on, and I logged on to apps.umn.edu, and it fires up the little Citrix Workspace that I have previously installed. I select desktops. Now, I have lots of desktops, but you'll just see the CFANS cloud. You select that. You go down to the word open. It brings down a little program down at the bottom, a little ICA that comes down. It's one for each session, and you'll open that for that particular session, and then it'll start the CFANS cloud desktop. Now, it takes a little bit for the CFANS cloud desktop to start up. Once you're in it and it's working, it's really quick, but there is a little bit of initial startup, and we've got a few startup issues that I might want to mention. The prime time for the startup for the CFANS desktop is from 7 in the morning until midnight at night. If you're using it after midnight and up until, I think, 6 or 7 in the morning, I think that you would be, it would work, but it'd be a little slower. So the prime time is really from like 6 in the morning till midnight. Now, what comes up when you in the CFANS desktop. Now I'm using a browser and I've loaded into the CFANS desktop. Now this CFANS desktop, there's a couple things that I want to explain about it, and I've got a PDF that shows this. And this PDF explains a few things. The PDF that I have explains that you're going to use the W, which is where stuff is stored. Okay, you want to make sure everything is saved there on the W, because that is cleared off the desktop and cleared off the virtual computer when you log off. So the W is where you store things for safekeeping. Here's the little controls up here, the little toolbar. You can use that to actually set up your preferences. You could actually set up, like I could say, read-write to my local drives if I wanted to. But you're primarily going to use network drives, but that would just be if you ever wanted to use your local. Here's how you actually would sign off. You click on this and sign out. Okay, so we would so that's the CFANS desktop. Now, what we're going to use this for, and I've got a PDF of this, and here's the PDF that explains that. That was the first one I just went through. Here's the second one, the PDF that explains the second. Now, the third one is important, and I'll step through that in a second for you, but you want to talk about it and go through this little PDF where it explains it and has some of the links so you've written down that you'll see in the video in a second. The important thing is that when you're using the CFANS Cloud Desktop, the virtual computer, you're always working on the desktop of that virtual computer. And the reason you do that is for speed. Okay, the other drives, your local drives, are horribly slow. The other network drives are sort of slow. But you want to work on the desktop, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to take the information from the class directories, whether it be on S or L, and S or L are mirrors of each other. The S is the fastest one. The L is the one that's actually at the university, on the university network computer. This is on the virtual computer, but it's a secondary storage. It's not the desktop. So you'd pick up your data from the S, whether you're in the advanced course or whether you're in the intro class, whatever lab you're working on. You'd copy that entire folder to your desktop, and you would work on your desktop, save it on your desktop, and when you're done, you would actually copy it back to your W for safekeeping, and then exit the virtual computer. So this is this little desktop shuffle that I'll show you here in a second. Okay, I'm on the virtual computer. Okay, I've loaded the Citrix once, the Citrix workstation once. I've fired up apps.umn.edu, and I've logged into the CFANS desktop, and I'm going to start up and do my work on ArcGIS Pro for either the intro or the advanced course. What you're going to do before you start ArcGIS Pro, you go to File Explorer on this virtual computer, and you pick up the information from the Speedy drive, okay, the Speedy read-only drive. Now we have read-only drives of L and S, and they have the same information in them. So you'd want to use the fastest one, which is the S, but the L you could if you want to. And you'll use it for your class, whichever class you're in. I'm going to pretend I'm in the intro undergraduate class, and I'm in the intro undergraduate class, and I'm pretending I'm starting the first lab. So I'll copy that particular folder for the first lab that I'm going to do it, and I'm going to put that on my safekeeping place, on my W. And you can see that it moves over fairly quickly. It shouldn't take all that long, but there's a little bit of delay. So now it's on my W in the safekeeping place. Now to do my work, I've got to have it on the desktop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it again, and I'm going to paste it on the desktop. Okay, so now it's on the desktop. Okay, this is my working place, and I can close my folder here. Now, so this is on the desktop. So now I'm going to fire up ArcGIS Pro. And this is how you fire up ArcGIS Pro. ArcGIS Pro, when you start ArcGIS Pro, it comes with this little initialization. And when it comes up, you want to remember the very first screen you don't sign into. The very first screen you go to your ArcGIS organization URL, and you click on that. And then you type in UMN, okay, to get our instance. You do continue, and now it says sign into the university with Esri, and you select the U of M X500. So you select that and you type in your X500 and you sign in and you get the Duo. And I'm going to have to do the Duo on my phone just like everybody. We all do the same thing. So we get Duo. And now ArcGIS Pro starts. And you can see it's fairly snappy now. So now I'm going to start a new map. So I start a blank map. Now I'm working on my first lab for whichever class, the intro or the advanced course. I'm working on my first lab. You could call it my work, or call it whatever you want. The name doesn't matter. The important thing is the location here. See, you don't want to put it on documents. You want to put it on desktop. So you click on the little yellow, okay, and we go over to the computer, and we go over to this PC, and we go over to desktop. We go over to lab 1, and we say OK. So now you can see it's going to C users Ajanx desktop 1. And we're always going to create an empty folder there for us. So we say OK, and now it starts. Now it might take a minute for when you're initializing the map. And like I say, the best times are between 6 in the morning and midnight for the instance to work quickest for you. But this is what will always happen when you're creating a blank new map in ArcGIS Pro. There'll be a map, there'll be the contents, and they'll start with some information over here. I often pin this to the side. You can see this catalog, I pin it. You know, these sidebars I'm placing over in the sidebar. Here's the map that I'm going to work on. And now in this, in our labs for the intro course and for the advanced courses, we have instructions, clear instructions. And I'm going to real quickly go through just an example here to show you how this works. Now, I'm pretending I'm doing lab 1 in the first intro class. So I'm just going to remove these background maps that come up first. They always default into ArcGIS as background maps. And in the step-by-step instructions for the intro class, we show you how to add data. But you want to remember, when you're adding data, you want to be adding the data from your desktop. From the desktop, lab 1. And for the very first work in the lab, we're using lakes and roads. That's what the instructions will say. You'll see that when you download the instructions for lab 1 and you follow through it. So then you're going to do a whole series of steps with this map, and I'll show you the output here in a second. I'm going to do a new layout, and I'm going to put this map on it. You'll see all this in the instructions. I'm just doing it to show one final step on output. So in this case, I've created a map. I've added some data from the desktop. I've created a piece of paper, put that map on it, and I'm going to export it. And all these steps that I'm doing real quickly are in the step-by-step instructions. Relax, don't worry. They're all step-by-step button pushing. But I'm going to want to show you this export layout to show you that the output also goes to the desktop. So when you do your work on the desktop, you're not only loading files and saving files, but you're actually exporting to the desktop. So I would export, and you can see it's fairly quick on the desktop, this export process. So now I'm going to save my project, say I've done my work, I've done the entire lab 1 in this case. I'm going to save it. Okay, so the project's saved. Now it's saved to the desktop. Then I'm going to exit out of ArcGIS Pro. And now before I leave the virtual session here, I'm going to take this whole folder. I'm going to copy this whole folder. And I'm going to put this whole folder on my W down here. And I'm going to paste it on my W. And if it was already there, you would overwrite it. You know, if you've done some work and you were continuing to work. But you'd get an overwrite message. But I didn't have, this is the first time I put it there. So now my data is saved from the desktop to the W, and I can then close the File Explorer, and I can go and sign off of the virtual session, knowing that my data is, and everything is saved, and I can bring it back as I need it. So I'm going to sign out, and I'm now finished with the ArcGIS Pro using the CFANS Cloud Desktop. And here I am, I've saved my work to the W for Save TV. Now, when I come back, I start ArcGIS Pro again. I could bring it from the W to the desktop, do my work, put it back. It's this shuffle that you have to get used to so you're working on the desktop. Why do we do it? Because that's the only way it works real quickly. If you're working on some of the other drives, even the local network drives on the cloud computer, it'll work, but it's very slow. And if you work on your local ones, it'll take forever. So You believe me, work on the desktop, do all your work on the desktop, and don't try and cut corners and avoid the shuffle, because it'll really come back to bite you in terms of big time delays. So save things on the W. You pull it from the L or the S, put it on the W, move it to the desktop, do it on the desktop, save it on the W. I hope that's clear. If there's any questions, please let me know. Andy Jenks, and my information is all on the class website, and I'm all at the top. The information for help on any of the classes here. I've got hours, Zoom hours from 7 to 8 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's lecture and lab classes you could come to for questions. You call me, write me, whatever. Happy to help. Thank you very much.